us in studios, Mr. James Mututa. Welcome.
Asante sana ndugu to our viewers and all those following us on different platforms.
Thank you very much. James Mututa, you're very welcome in studios this morning. And of course, together with James Mututa is also our guest, the woman member of parliament from Terego district, the Honorable Rose Obiga. You are very welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'll do my best.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Ndugu Akol, karibu.
Yeah, asante sana. The pleasure is mine joining you on this Monday.
Okay. Well, that's very important. To all our viewers out there, we just want to let you know that Uganda Broadcasting Corporation TV, excuse me, UBC TV specifically, our Good Morning Uganda Extra program, in conjunction with the University of Johannesburg in South Africa, we bring you this very special Pan-African dialogue where we will discuss education leadership as an anchor to Pan-Africanism and, of course, social justice and sustainable development. Now, we are also joined by quite a number of people, and, of course, most importantly, I'll start with Professor Julie Perumal, from the University of Johannesburg, and she's the chair of the Africa Education Leadership Roundtable. Julie, are you with us?
Good morning. Yes, I am with you. Greetings from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, a very good morning. How is South Africa and how is Johannesburg specifically this morning?
It's a beautiful morning in Johannesburg, early summer.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, together with Professor Julie, we have several others on the line who I actually want to get to. I do not know who is ready for me, but there is Professor Maitesio Obolane from Botswana. I don't know whether you are with us. Miss Lobna Ben Nasir from Tunisia. If you are there, please say yes. Rashid Ibrahim Yunus. Welcome. There is somebody online for me. Good morning, all of you. Could you please just tell me your names and where you are?
Good morning to you. Good morning to you. The name is Maiteo, T-S-E, Teo. Maiteo Bolani, from Botswana.
From Ghana. From Botswana. You're very welcome, yes. From Botswana. Yes, Madam, you're also welcome. Is this Ben Nasser from Tunisia?
Yes, this is Lobna Ben Nasser from Tunisia. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here and to contribute to this event.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben Nasser from Tunisia. Rashid Ibrahim Yunus from Tanzania. Can you also hear us? Rashid from Tanzania.
Yes, I can. And good morning to everyone. I'm Ibrahim Yunus Rashid from Tanzania.
Thank you very much. Ibrahim there from the United Republic of Tanzania. Just here, and Dr. Mahende from Mauritius. Dr. Mahende, can you also hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, Uganda. Good morning, everyone. It's a hello from Mauritius. And I look forward to interacting with you during this session. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very, very much. Now, it's going to be about how we manage our time for all of us to contribute to this debate live on UBC TV. And of course, those following us, it is UBC TV, our YouTube channel, UBC TV Uganda. You can also follow us on our Twitter platforms at UBC Uganda. And of course, all the other social networks. And we thank you so much for being with us in studios. Well, just before, yes. There's Dr. Vera. Dr. Vera. Dr. Vera, are you also there?
Yes, I'm here. Pleasant greetings from Nigeria. A beautiful morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vera from the University of Nigeria. I am happy that you're also there. How is Nigeria this morning?
Very fine, thank you.
Well, that's very important. Thank you so much. Well, here is where we are today. And of course, this is what UBC TV has done this morning in conjunction with the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, let me just take the opportunity to call to this conversation Professor Juliet to give us the introduction. Let's set the stage with you, Professor Julie, the chair for the Africa Education Leadership Roundtable. Let me have you in the next 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Agenda. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you this morning on air and to share with you our program for the week. We are the University of Johannesburg, and specifically the Department of Education, Leadership and Management, is hosting our 6th annual Africa Education Leadership Roundtable. And the theme for this year is the future of equity, inclusion and diversity, implications for educational leadership. This will be running from the 27th to the 28th of October. And we have participants from around 50 different African countries and the African diaspora, as well as over 25 countries and 50 speakers, including some cultural activities as well. And so we're really glad that we could have this platform to share with you some of the items on the program.
Okay, well, that's very important. Ndugu Akol, let me come to you in studios, yeah, before I get back to those on Zoom. Here is where we are today, and of course, discussing education in Africa and education itself in our African context.
Well, I think education is that single most item that can help reshape the continent, can help actually develop the continent. And it is very important that all efforts in education on the continent actually harmonized or brought together. And that's why such kind of initiatives like the Roundtable, the Education Leadership Roundtable, is very, very important. I'm privileged that I'm among, I think from Uganda, I'm one of those who are going to be presenting a paper at the Roundtable, and mainly mine will be, my paper will focus on the geopolitics, and looking at how Uganda has actually helped refugees to access education. We have a very, very good example in Uganda that people have come here as refugees and have left as professionals. So that is, I think that is why even the United States thought of bringing the Afghanis here, because they knew that yes, Uganda has such an conducive atmosphere. So it's the people will be looking at that, how the leadership in Uganda, how the leadership in education in Uganda has actually facilitated that somebody comes in as a refugee and at the end of the day is a professional, and perhaps how other African countries can learn from this. But also, that said, I think also it is very important that organizers of such forums can always engage the media, and I'm happy that the leadership of UBC has thought it wise to say that, look here, we need to create a Pan-African platform where such kind of continental initiatives really we can share with the rest of Ugandans, we can share with the rest of East Africans, and we can share with our audience in the diaspora, because we well know that our president here is the patron of Pan-Africanism in the world.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Let me go to Dr. Vera from the University of Nigeria. It is a feeling, Dr. Vera, there that if you want to, it's just a very common feeling that if you want to fix education on the continent of Africa, then it's very important that we build our leaders. Looking at the education today as we talk about it, and as we will continue talking about it, is it that education that can help us build and fix the continent today?
Yeah, thank you very much. For sure, education is all we need to fix the challenges of Africa. But from a Nigerian perspective, now the challenge we are having is that is the problem of insecurity, which is actually affecting the beautiful policies that we have in Nigeria. We've got beautiful frameworks on paper, but actualizing this framework, putting in practice, these principles that have been penciled down is the challenge we are having today. So in Nigeria, the current problem we are facing is the problem of insecurity, which has transited into the education sector. In Nigeria today, schools are being shut down. Today is Monday. As I speak to you, I am in the southeastern part of Nigeria, where the University of Nigeria is located. In the southeastern part of Nigeria today, every Monday is sit at home. I am in my house now, can't go to work, nobody is going anywhere. School children are back home. Schools are locked down, the markets are locked down. So that is the current situation in Nigeria. So the education system is being affected by the security challenges we are going through now.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Vera, Professor Vera from the University of Nigeria. Now, that's very important. To my brother Yunus in Tanzania, you can't just imagine what we are enduring as a continent. Now, Professor Vera from Nigeria, of course, cites an issue of insecurity, which, of course, is a problem to the African continent. Remember, we're struggling and finding ways of silencing the guns, which was an African Union a theme for the year 2020, but of course until now that is not yielding results. We talk about silencing the guns, but yet again in this day and era we are still having coups happening. But right from insecurity, we've also been now riddled by the pandemic of COVID-19, and Africa as it is, we are waiting for somebody to vaccinate us, help us to get back to normalcy. With the wake of the pandemic of COVID-19, what do you think needs to be done to strengthen and to ensure that our education system does not really fail completely and totally?
Thank you very much. So the pandemic has affected all of us in the whole world. And of course, the challenges are very numerous. So the solutions also should be numerous. What I can propose, because also my doctoral studies, I focus more on investing on teachers. So with the pandemic, I do believe that we can create awareness, especially in schools, to the students, to the parents. So I believe that we can invest on teachers, we can train leadership skills to the teachers, and they can be actually part of the solution to the local problems, because most of the problems and most of the interventions do not need to come from high authority. Most of them could be actually implemented in the locality, in the field. And I think teachers who are already there, stationed in our schools, in education system, they can be very helpful.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Rashid Ibrahim Yunus, just right there from the United Republic of Tanzania. He's an educationist. Just before I come to studios, to get to the Member of Parliament who is also charged with making policy in our country, also struggling with that. Let me hear from my sister, Ben Nasser from Tunisia. Ben, could you just please tell us what it is like and leveraging on education leadership as an anchor, of course, for Pan-Africanism, social justice, and sustainable development. What can the rest of us hear or learn from you in Tunisia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this question. Actually, in Tunisia, education system is one of the most important areas of investment as far as the government and people are concerned. As Dr. Ibrahim Yunus has already suggested, during the pandemic, there was a lot of hard work from our educational administrators, educators. The purpose was not to stop the education. So we had online teaching and blended teaching, and that helped students not to stop during the pandemic. As far as the leadership is concerned, I think this is one of the most important skills that we need to teach to our students and to integrate in different courses. I think the language courses, for example, are the most welcoming areas of courses or of lessons that can help teachers to incorporate the notion and the concept of leadership along with other concepts. And I think this concept is just one of the concepts of the 21st century skills that we need to incorporate in our courses, in our teaching, and in the students' learning. These 21st century skills are not limited to leadership. There are other skills, like what we call the 4 Cs. The 4 Cs are the sub-skills related to the job market requirements, such as critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. I think these can help us as teachers and educators to empower our students to face the job market requirements and also to be well aware of all the different skills and sub-skills that are required for their profile in the 21st century. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. My sister Ben, will come back to you just right there in Tunisia, of course, to continue the conversation. Honorable Member of Parliament back home here, Honorable Rozobiga from Tenego. We are right now, the conversation in this country is about the teacher policy, the national teachers policy that was launched by government in 2019. And one of the things that this policy specifically seeks is to upgrade teacher education to a bachelor's degree as a given for all teachers in this country, and of course to professionalize education or the teaching profession. And one of the things that is causing a lot of debate is how would we even think about having nursery school teachers with bachelor's degrees? People still think for you to be a kindergarten teacher or a nursery school teacher, you do not have to acquire a degree. That is what is currently happening in this country of Uganda. I come to this conversation and of course also help us how we can learn from this in as far as education leadership is concerned. Honorable Biga.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Uganda is looking at quality. Exactly. How can we get quality education for the students and then to tilt Uganda to the next level? And this all comes to the capacity and ability of the teachers to drill the pupils or to drill the students very well. And this does not just come overnight. It just comes with a lot of pain, meaning the teachers have to upgrade, because we are looking at imparting real skills with this nonsense of talking about when River Nile was discovered by who, where. No. Because now we have had a lot of time wasted and taken off by COVID, and there are so many teenage pregnancies. There's a lot that has really gone on amongst the students and pupils. So this has come timely that we get really people who are ready to take us to the next level, not people who are just there to pick salary. Okay. They should be able to contribute enormously, because we are seeing that if we don't do the right thing as a country now, then definitely we shall be left behind in Africa.
Okay, very important. When the professor from Nigeria was speaking to us, when Dr. Vera from the University of Nigeria was speaking to us, she cited something and said we have good frameworks on paper. Now, that is in Nigeria, but I want to tell Professor Vera that what is in Nigeria is in my country, where we also have very good frameworks on paper, and these are things that we just talk about, cite, and not even implement. What is it like looking at the legal regime, the legal framework of this country of Uganda? Does it give us that education that we require for this day and age to be able to compete in the world with the others?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, Uganda has the best legal framework. This is perfect. What you have said is the correct thing. But now implementation, who are to implement this? That's why maybe the problem is because we have in the education sector people who are myopia, who have remained so down. Can we bring them to a certain level so that they understand and implement the legal framework? For example, we have the students' loan scheme. Whom is it benefiting? Do they understand that this scheme was meant for the most vulnerable? Because if we are talking about social justice, we are looking at economic and political benefits, at least to bring other people up. Now, we have Imyoga, we have UPE, we have USE. How is it impacting on our educational system? So if we have the teachers pulled to a certain level of education, then they should be able to interpret. It doesn't need a lawyer like me to always be everywhere to interpret for anyone. But of course, what is so crucial and important is, for me, I look at being a patriot. Can Ugandans become so patriotic and stop corruption? Every corner that is eating up Uganda is corruption. Whatever resources we have would do a lot. Now that we have so many teenage pregnancies, can people think outside the box and say, how do we patch up this time wasted and see children move on? Can we stop thinking about pregnancy as a dropout solution and say, even after giving birth, I can still start from where I left? Because COVID has really done it so much to us. Thank you.
Okay. Before I again go back to Botswana or Mauritius, here is where we are. Let me have your thoughts on education as an anchor, of course, for Pan-Africanism and also sustainable development of the continent of Africa.
I think it was Professor Vera from Nigeria who talked about insecurity and the issues of conflict. Conflict is one of the biggest problems that this continent has, especially when it comes to when it comes to education, because where there is conflict in Nigeria, for example, we have had, I think it's the best example. We have had the Boko Haram issues. We have had a number of other conflicts, like she's now talking. There's still an ongoing conflict. The schools are not able, besides the COVID and other evils that we have been experiencing in that country, we now have the conflict. So I think it's also important as we talk of the good policies, of the good programs in education, to look at conflict as a continent. Once the issue of conflict is addressed, then these other, because even the policies, you are not going to implement them in air. We have had all these good policies, but then, like I said, conflict is one of them. The issues of poverty. The Honorable was talking about this increasing pregnancies as the result of COVID and lockdowns. But the issue of poverty is also one of the problems, because maybe when you look at the number of these pregnancies, the issue of poverty could also be one of the driving factors of these pregnancies. Now, the issue of poverty also has to be addressed, especially in the African context. Families have been forced to make hard decisions on who to take to school and who to leave, because you cannot maybe afford the fees or the requirements for everyone. And this is not only Uganda. Tunisia will tell you the same, Nigeria will tell you the same, Ghana will tell you the same, that these families are forced to make these hard decisions. In the most cases, sometimes girls have been the victims, because then parents will say, maybe let's take the boy. Now that girls have, those who have gotten a pregnancy, are they going to have the same chance to get back to school? These are some of the issues that I think as Africans we need to look at. She's talking about, and I think also the professor from Tunisia was talking about it, the issue of quality and investment in education. How much are governments on the continent investing in education? And what type of education? The quality of education and quality of teachers, the issues of technology. We have had in cases, in some places where you find a P6 dropout is teaching in a P6 class or P5 class or like that, especially as you move away from the urbanized settings into rural areas. Then issue of quality of teachers and the quality of education also comes in play. How will we have to, how much can and how far can we invest in education to ensure that children are getting this quality education? But also the issue of technology now is coming in. how do we make use of technology in all this? In urbanized areas, it's very easy, but what about the rural areas? But at the same time, we as Africans need to be conscious of the fact that there is the indigenous education, indigenous technology, and the modern technology. How do we interface? How do we integrate the two? Because then it will help the learners to learn faster, given the local experiences. One was talking of the local experiences to factor in that, because then the learners will be able to learn. The other time I was had an experience. There's this old lady who was playing with her grandchildren. For those who in Uganda, especially the 6 stones, you know, the jumping, you know, and it was a very good experience for me, because how do we pass on this knowledge that can help the learners to learn fast from the local experiences, so that even when you expose them to the other advancement in technology, they will be able to understand. So for me, I think the whole thing is, as Africans, we need to sit back and identify where we are strong. By the way, when we talk even of the technology, we know that, for example, in the military warfare, Africa was advanced. When you talk of the Majimaji, when you talk of the Ngoni, when you talk of the Hehe, these are experiences that we can, other countries and other areas have learned from our own, that have again superseded. But we seem to linger and admire what others are doing more than what we can do as Africans to be able to achieve. Even with general education, what type of education do we want? Where do we want this education to take us? She was talking about who discovered the Nile and the river. But I think the first person to have seen the Nile was not a person from anywhere. It must have been, because by the time it is discovered, the Basoga and the others were already bathing in it. So what is the big deal? So I think we also, as Africans, need to come up with systems that are going to help us also to push, even when it means going to the moon, without necessarily having to learn about the prairies, which don't even belong to us here. So to me, I think it is again the focus that Africans and sacrifice that we need to make. Okay,
thank you very much. Professor Bolane from Botswana, I also want to hear thoughts on the conversation that is currently ensuing here in studios, and address us on SDG number 4, which talks about quality education, and of course, picking over from Ndugu James Mututa here in our studios in Kampala. He talks about investment in education, and when we're launching the Vision 2063 of the African Union in Ethiopia, at that time in 2013, one of the things, of course, that was also looked at was education as an anchor to see that it actually helps us achieve this dream in the next 50 years. Could you please help us understand, when we talk about SDG 4, which talks about quality education and also our levels of investing in education to really achieve this and to have an education that can spur and help our continent go forward? Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry I was off the line for a while. Internet connections in Africa. So I've missed most of the interventions. I think thanks for your question, most of the African countries have invested in education and they see the value of education. But I want to pick from the previous speaker, because I was able to pick something from there and link it to the question that you are asking me on the SDG and quality of education. I think one of the challenges that most of the sub-Saharan African countries are facing is what type of education do we define as quality education? Is quality education what is dictated by the Western or industrialized societies? For instance, I think I'd like to link what is happening now in the continent together with the SDGs and all these expectations globally, because we respond to the global concerns. And we also want to become relevant in many ways and also respond to our economies. One of the issues that I see now is the definition of knowledge economy. Most of the African countries or African leaders are now battling with the definition of knowledge economy. What we mean by knowledge economy is the knowledge economy to respond to the global issues, or knowledge economy that also embrace how we look at ourselves as Africans. I've always tried to battle with an argument of, or a question of what is an African university, or what is an African school environment. How do we want, what sort of learner do we want to nurture or develop? How do we want this learner to respond to the challenges that we are facing in Africa? For instance, if you look at the education system today, as we are all investing in the education system, there is a global trend where African countries are trying to attune their education system to the so-called global economic competitiveness, because we are also trying to look at our economies, situate our economies so that we find a ways of attracting the foreign direct investment. But the challenge that we have again is that, I mean, if you look at Africa as a whole, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, we are now looking at the stem. I know the minister, the honorable minister, made reference to the discovery of the Nile River or whatever you may refer to. But my problem is that we cannot emphasize the STEM, that is the science, technology, math, etc., at the expense of social science, humanities, as African educationists. I think we should find a way to balance the issues, because most of our industries are still we are not yet at the level of where Europe is today. A very typical example is what is happening now with the COVID pandemic, where we are just relying on the other world to supply us with the vaccine. So how can we balance? What sort of a learner do we want to produce? So, and then this brings us to the quality of education. That the quality of education, in my view, does not necessarily where you want to respond to everything in the manner in which the West is responding to the education, because their education system is also, to some extent, producing ills in society. So when we are looking at our educational frameworks, we should look at our education frameworks in the sense that we can also learn from one another as the continent. Because the challenge that we have is that I was listening to my sister from Tunisia, and very brilliant ideas, and also listened to my brother from Tanzania before my line went off. And I was just thinking that, but to what extent, we are talking about the African agenda, but to what extent does the African continent or the African school system really deals from what is cultivated from our own continent? That is my position.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Professor Bolane from Botswana. We really thank you so much, and we've captured your thoughts in here. Let me also hear from Dr. I need to hear now from Dr. Mahen from Mauritius. When we talk about quality education, Dr. Mahen, just help us understand what is quality education, because we'll talk about quality education, and quality education. But what we mean when we talk about quality education in an African context?
When we talk, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
When we talk of quality education, we are talking of an education which meets the needs of the learners, of educators, which respects the national policies of the of the educational system, and which also go in line and respects the international setup. Here in Mauritius, we are quite satisfied the way things were managed. I am a member of parliament, I am a member of the opposition party. Still, I'm quite happy with the way things went on during and after the COVID pandemic. For example, we were able to provide education to our students through different means, online education. Now, all schools are on, though we have a staggered timetable. Students are going to school on a 3 or 4 day basis per week. Our University of Mauritius, is going to resume with online sessions, but there are other universities which are allowing students to come in because we have a high level of vaccination, staff members, educators, and our students 15 plus are getting vaccinated. So these are things which are allowing Mauritius to manage, to handle the situation. And when we talk of quality education, now our system of education at the secondary level, our end of year exams are monitored by Cambridge University. So Mauritians, they have to take the SC and HSC exams, which is monitored, which is by Cambridge University. So in terms of quality, we don't have much of a problem, but I have heard my colleagues talking about a few problems like teenage pregnancy, corruption. It is not that we don't have these problems. Perhaps the scale is to a very minimal level, but still, we still striving to give our teachers better training so that in the future, if ever we have other emergencies, we have a preparedness plan. I think a leadership henceforth will have to be geared in such a way so that when we have these situations of crisis, how do we manage them? So we need, the new challenges will be in terms of human resources, will be in terms of financial resources, we will have to update technology to meet the needs that may crop up in such a situation. Fortunately, we do not have that much of a problem of poverty and so on in the island over here. All right, we normally have a handful, about 2,000 students in the whole country who come from underprivileged families. They are provided with the basic necessities from food to educational materials, all right? And education is free in our country from primary up till tertiary level. So we do not face many of the problems that have been enumerated, but still we are as a nation, we're still striving to improve further whatever we have. We don't sit back on our laurels and we try to look forward what can be done. And definitely we can learn a lot from our African counterparts over here and also from European and Asian counterparts in order to improve the system further and to provide that quality education that you're talking. Because quality education, I think it is a quest, it is a journey. It is not that we achieve it in one day. It is a perpetual thing. It is a relentless activity. It takes place in the classroom, it takes place in the society, it takes place at home, and it takes place at the level of policies. We have to revamp policies on a regular basis so that our learners, whether at school or at university, or even informal education that we talk of, they get the best of the best. Because with globalization, we cannot isolate our system from the rest. We need to align our system with the rest of the world so that we look forward in the same direction, so that Mauritians, when they move from Mauritius and go to any part, whether it is in Africa, in Asia, in America, or Europe, they can still adapt to the situations there. So quality education, as you said, is a relentless quest, and this is what is our target.
Thank you very much. Let me just run to Tunisia, to Ms. Ben. In Tunisia, just on the same, Ben, in Tunisia, talk about quality education. Now, Dr. Mahindia says what we call quality education is being able to meet the needs. Talk to us about quality education. And you think that this education is actually meeting our needs as Africans?
Very, very good question. I was going to talk about that. Actually, quality education is according to the international norms, are always referred to to the European Commission of Higher Education, and also UNESCO. Where is Africa here? We are just following. We have to, as Dr. Mahend said, we have to align ourselves to successful educational systems. The European educational systems have proved to be successful because people who are graduated can face the job market requirements and the challenges. That's why we are following what is existing, what is successful, what has proved to be successful. UNESCO has already published and posted different research on education, quality education, sustainable goals of development. As far as these goals are concerned, education is number 4. It is one of the most important goals of sustainable development in our world. Also, the European Commission of Higher Education has already established norms, standards, and we are always referring to these as the norms for our education. This is not good, bad, but where is Africa here? Why don't we do the same? Why don't we have African Commission of Higher Education, where we can have joint projects of research, of labs, and of different educational products that can promote the African continent and the African countries. So I think we should think about that. It's good to follow others who prove to be successful, but also it's good to get inspired and have our own, which is contextualized, which respond to the African context. I hope that I have answered you.
Yes, thank you so much. Let me just go to Professor Juliet from the University of Johannesburg. Julie, come back again to this conversation. You've kept quiet for some time. But the more educated we get, the more unemployed we also become. And that's now a paradox that we need to answer. Because we talk about getting educated in all African countries for a fact. We've got so many universities, public universities and private universities. We graduate thousands upon thousands of graduates every other year, but yet again the problem that we're also grappling with on the continent is the rising numbers, the spiraling numbers in youth unemployment, especially these that have graduated from school. How are we going to answer these questions, and how shall we let the next generation really know that education is here for them and for their future when they've seen those who have gone through education and they are languishing on the streets without employment?
Thank you for that question. I think it's such a pertinent question, and it pretty much goes back to what several of our colleagues on the panel have discussed today. It's about the relevance and the appropriacy of our education. So, we talked a lot about access to education, and there is increasing, and we see there is an increase in students across the continent gaining access, of course, with important, caveats in it with regards to the girl-child education. But for me, it's about when we go to school, what is it that we want to accomplish? So, having students in school and holding them hostage for 6 to 7 hours a day in meaningless rituals of pedagogy that have no relevance to their daily lives, it forces us to rethink what then is the purpose of education, and is education a good thing? Now, that's highly controversial, but it forces us to rethink about what is it that our curriculum is all about. And I think the pandemic has brought into very stark relief and brought to the foreground just how lacking our education is in terms of basic survival skills. We've heard about the increasing levels of food insecurity, and we wonder what is it that we're doing at school that we still have people on the continent and in South Africa that have problems accessing food, for that matter, or for housing. We were asked to all stay in lockdown during the pandemic. with little consideration that some people don't even have homes and housing is an issue. And it's an indictment on our education system in terms of what exactly are we preparing our students, ourselves for, if when it comes to basic survival issues, we still haven't got it right. So with regard to youth unemployment, or unemployment in general, I think it's about unlearning some of the myths, some of the stereotypical thinking that has governed our schooling, our education, that we have to go through years of structured learning only to become then dependent on someone else to employ us. So it comes back to what Dr. Lobnow was talking about learning some critical skills, 21st century skills of creativity, of innovation, so that we do not become slaves to follow what has already been out there as a template, but how do we rethink, reinvent both ourselves and our education system.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Juliet from the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. Before I come to you, the Honorable Obiga, Member of Parliament here in Uganda, let me hear from Dr. Vera Victor from the University of Nigeria. Dr. Vera, in Nigeria, the late now Professor Chika Onyeani, in one of his books, The Capitalist Nigger, it talks about the miseducation of the black race. And he had lots of issues of how the African was actually miseducated, and that is the education we talk about. Now, going forward, we've come at a level where we've all talked about this education and said, this is not the best education for us, this is not the education that will bring us sustainable development, but yet again, we are continuing and carrying on with this particular education, gleaning from the thoughts of the late Professor Chika Onyeani, also from Nigeria, who said, Africa is where it is because we were miseducated. Let's qualify or disqualify his opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think I also share the sentiment of the late Professor Chika Onyeani. Going by what we have today in Nigeria, it is very obvious that some persons or some individuals or group or sections in Nigeria were misinformed by the kind of education they have. And that is why for some of us, coming from a psychological perspective, what we are now clamoring for is some form of what we call cognitive restructuring. I give you a practical instance. The crisis we are having in Nigeria, the security tension in Nigeria coming from some segment of the country. You have heard about what we call the Boko Haram group, the Headers group, and what have you. The literal translation of Boko Haram from the local language to English is Western education is sin. I take that again. It means Western education is a sin.
Thank you.
Then you can imagine a group of persons coming to say Western education is a sin, and that is their ideology. That is what they are chanting. For anybody who is educated, who is going through some form of Western education, they see you as a sinner. So now we are saying such individuals have been wrongly educated because they have gone through some form of education, and we are now saying they need to restructure their cognition. They need to be taught that Western education is not sin. And this process is not going to happen overnight. It's not a magical thing. It is going to take time. And that is what is leading to the problem we are having. The cognitive restructuring process seems slow, seems not working to some person, but it is. And that is why for some of us in the academia, we are calling on other sister African nations to also begin to work on our people to see that Western education is no sin. Rather, it is a path to development, because when we are talking about quality development, it is all encompassing. the mental, the physical, the cognitive aspect, irrespective of race, gender, or ethnicity. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Your commissioner is actually coming to you on the same issue of the Boko Haram, but you ably talked about it because now that's an ideology of an African outfit that thinks when you get this Western education, of course, you are an outcast, you are abominable to society. But thank you so much, Dr. Vera Victor from the University of Nigeria. The Honorable Obiga, just before I go to Tanzania, we're still on this particular conversation. And of course, looking at the things, look at education as it is. Quality education, very important, but you've also heard from the panelists on Zoom in the different countries, African countries, where they are. Are we on the right trajectory in as far as education is concerned? And also, gleaning from the background that we have really got so many. For example, when you look at a country like Uganda, in 1962, when we're getting our independence, the number of graduates at that time you can't compare it to what is here today. We've got so many graduates, and when you talk about our independence, post-independence achievements, you'll notice that we'll talk about these very many graduates that we have in Nigeria, in South Africa, and everywhere. But yet again, we're grappling with many other problems, poverty being one of them. Isn't education helping us to solve these problems on the continent?
Yeah, thank you so much. Just as the other speakers have said, we still have a long way, yeah. But to me, of recent, I've interacted with so many Ugandans from various disciplines, and the challenge has been people don't want to think outside the box. People don't want to be innovative. You remain fixed. Yes, I'm a lawyer, so what? I have to go to court, and what else can I do? Apart from going to court, what else? You see, that kind of tilting or tickling of the mind is the challenge. Because youths want the white-collar jobs. You wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, and go and sit. That is not it. With the numbers that have grown, can we be more creative? Can you do, or can you walk the talk? Can you open maybe a company? You start small, bring others on board, and then you see how you can move on. But you see, if you want people to get your product, can you give us quality product? For example, if you're a medical doctor, can patients go there and you diagnose them, and then you prescribe the right treatment and they get healed? Or if you're an engineer, can we say that the construction work you have done has never collapsed? But once you hear a construction has collapsed in your hands, and what kind of engineer are you? So we are all focusing on quality. Sorry, we're all focusing on quality. Can we have everything that we get from the educated class come out with quality? That's why we're looking at the quality of teachers. Can we have a serious focus on bringing up Ugandans who will think of the next generation, not only for yourself and your family? I thank God for, is it Mauritius? Tunisia.
Mauritius.
Yeah.
Dr. Mahen.
Dr. Mahen. They are now on online and so forth. But we have areas where in Uganda where there is no network, where there is no electricity. Exactly. Yeah. Now there is no radio. The poverty levels are still high, and I know this is not only in Uganda. It's in so many African countries. What can we do together? Can we have research together and say this is what can bring Africa as a continent together, and we move on? Because our challenges are similar. And now if the other side of Uganda cannot access online education, what do we have for them? Meaning we should have a specific way of training them hands-on, because education has become virtually expensive. Even when we say USE, when we say UPE, which kind of children go there? Which kind of teachers? A senior 2 dropout is teaching P7, even teaching senior 3s. Now you're a senior 2, can you teach senior 3s? So once we map up this and get the best thing for the learners, that's why we, the leaders, we should be pivotal. I always speak from a rural perspective because I'm a rural girl. Sure. If I forget my background, then definitely I would have forgotten the majority of Ugandans. I would have done the biggest disservice to this country. So I think, yes, on the right track, if we can only get the quality of teachers. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Ndugwa Call, please say something. You've kept quiet and of course listened to the various panelists from across the continent of Africa. Let me hear your thoughts again.
Well, thank you very much. I've had a number of our panelists, especially those on Zoom, have really talked about education accessibility. But I want us to look at the inter and intra-education accessibility. That in Uganda, how accessible is education? Can everyone access education, regardless of their economic background or their economic status? Now, can somebody jagenda semakula here in Uganda, can you easily access education in Congo, in a Francophone country, in Portuguese Africa, without necessarily, again, first perhaps having a year of studying that particular language? Now, how is it easy for a student perhaps who has been displaced by insurgents, maybe in South Sudan, maybe in Congo, how easy is it for them to be integrated in the education system of the country, perhaps where they go and live as refugees? That is a very, very important issue. Now, back here in Uganda, of course, you've talked about the issue of quality. Yes, the quality of education is very much determined by the quality of teachers. But at times we have ambitious plans without proper arrangements of having that. It is very good to have graduates as nursery teachers. It's very good to have graduates teaching the primary level. But the question is, how do we get there? How do we get there? Education at university is very expensive. Now, if we are turning all primary teachers colleges into now colleges of Unity, Uganda National Institute of Teacher Education, have we built the capacities of those colleges that now they can be university colleges? Have we really built their capacities? That is one. Let us look at the human resource. Do we have enough? Or we are going to see a person with a bachelor's now again fidgeting to teach? Do we have enough of them? Has government come up with an elaborate plan of saying, okay, look here, the tutors who are at colleges perhaps should be sponsored to go for masters, so they should be the first group of people to teach there. But also, let us also get to the mindset, because there are some students who cannot go up to A level. They know after senior form going to college. So to such students, has government also come up with like a basket that such students can be helped to study the 2 years at A level before they can go? Now let's get also at the years, increasing the years from 3 to 4. That's for the Ugandan policy. That's the Ugandan policy. Yes, that system works in Kenya, but it works in Kenya because in Kenya they study up to Form 4, then they join university. Now here, so you're not prolonging somebody's stay in school. In school. So these are issues that we should really understand as a country. But again, on the issue at continental level, I'm always, I always listen to our good friend Professor Lumumba, PLO Lumumba, because he says there are universities everywhere in Africa. But look at the construction going on in Africa. Are the Chinese? So where are our engineers? Yes, because every university, most universities have schools of engineering. So for heaven's sake, where are our engineers? Now we have a pandemic amidst us. Most universities have medical schools. They have those who have passed as pharmacists. How come that we are still fidgeting with vaccination from Europe? Okay. Yes, those are the issues now.
Thank you very much. You've now intrigued me to go to Tanzania, to my Ndugu, Ibrahim, in Tanzania. Now, picking over from the thoughts of Ndugu Akola Mazima here, I want to glean this to Ben, Miss Lobna Ben in Tunisia, who talked about the European Commission on Education. Now, you'll notice that we are in a pandemic and we're struggling to find vaccines. Now, Europe has got what they call the European Medical Agency that, of course, approves of the medicines and the vaccines and everything that they use. We yet, I think, do not have one as an African medical agency, but we have all these universities and schools of medicine in universities. We are talking about the African CDC. Now, we fall back and say, okay, what is the African CDC telling us about the pandemic? What are they telling us about COVID-19 and all the things? And still grappling with that. But yet again, do we have what we call maybe an African curriculum development center that the education tailored is indeed an African thing? When I moved to Tanzania, I go to the University of Dar es Salaam, I don't have to find strange things. When I move and go to the University of Ibadan in Nigeria, I shouldn't get to Nigeria and totally find a strange thing. Are we looking onto these things with so many universities, with both private and government? Where are we, Ndugu Ibrahim? Come to the conversation again from Tanzania.
Thank you very much. As you know, all speakers, they've pinpointed that we still have a long way to go. And currently, we are all discussing about the quality of education. I want just to take everyone's attention to the issue of learner center, the focus to the learner, because the quality of education is actually not on papers, but it's on what the learners are able to do. And when you look at the Vision 2063 African Union, it has a national part, but it also has an African focus, but it also have an international focus, which means we are ought to make sure that our learners are able to meet the demands of our own nations, but the demands of Africa, and also the demands of the international arena. Now, how do we go about? Where are we? Of course, that is a big discussion, and that's why we are all here. But what I can always say is that we need to customize our education. We, for example, in Tanzania, we have to focus more on what Tanzania needs. And I can say, for example, vocational skills. We need our students to have those skills. We need our students to also have the soft skills, and they need to have innovation. And I do believe that if all of us, we focus on these important skills for our learners, and try to be able to make sure that everyone is accessing this type of quality education, then as a country, we'll be able to have all what it takes to meet with the challenges that come. But as a country, we'll be able to integrate in Africa and also come up together with solutions that meets the demands of the African continent and eventually to the international arena. So I, again, take everyone's attention to the fact that we really need to focus on what our learners are learning from our schools. And this actually needs to be from the customized education system and policies that we create in our institutions and in our country in general.
Thank you. You just talked about the Africa Dream of 2063. Of course, when it was launched in 2013 under the chairpersonship of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Africa, the Union had or launched 15 flagship projects, and one of those was an and virtual African university. The brother, the gentleman, Dr. Mahend from Botswana, I beg your pardon, from Mauritius, talked about, e-education, virtual education. And this is one of the things that the African Union looked at in 2013 when they were launching the Vision 2063, the African Dream. But again, you notice the sentiments that are coming from all of us. You will understand that internet in Tanzania is not the same internet, it's not the same as it is in Uganda, it's not the same as it is in South Africa, it's not the same as it is in Mauritius, and elsewhere, in Tunisia, Botswana, and everywhere on the continent. How do you think that this can actually be achieved to even just have an African virtual and university for us, as the dream of 2063 states?
Yeah, I think we need first to have that intention, and after the having the intention, we will actually plan on how we go about. I do accept that it is not going to be able to be done in one day. We have a lot of challenges. Access to the internet is a big issue, but we have to start somewhere. I think the Pan-Africanist idea itself, it started as an idea, and it's an idea that needs to be nurtured. When we look on the challenges and then we give up from the beginning, I mean, these ideas won't really mature. So I just think that we have to start from somewhere, and each country has to find ways and make plans so that we are able to reach. And we need also to monitor and evaluate from time to time and see where we were and where we are right now, where we are heading, how much do we have to go, how much resources we need to organize so that more people can access. But we need to start somewhere.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to studios here. Ndugu Mtuta. Yes, you've heard from Ndugu Ibrahim from Tanzania. You've heard from Dr. Mahend in Mauritius. You've heard from Dr. Professor Juliet in South Africa and all the others. The conversation still carries on. And of course, we're trying to see what do you think needs to be done, or how better should we do what we're doing to make sure that we get there and of course also get competitive?
Well, I think the beginning point is now we have to have the synergize the academicians and the government. How do we sit together and agree? Because then the implementation will be easier. But in some cases we have the good politician, my sister here, sitting down and making all these good policies, but then the academicians are also the other side. And then they are told to implement. But I think it is also now necessary to synergize that all stakeholders are involved. Some of these policies are generated from those who are going to implement them. How far do we involve some of these people in the academics, in the education, for example, as we come up with these policies? How much do we interact and have the ideas from the people who are going to be consumers of these policies? But on the other side, I have liked the presenters who have talked all the way from Tunisia to South Africa, but I have also picked the interest in Dr. the Honorable MP Mahed. He has talked about things that we shared here, but maybe this is some of the experiences that we need as Africa to sit down and look at. We are talking about education, fine, but he has also told us that the issue of course, Honorable here was talking about the problem of pregnancies during these lockdowns. And for him, he's saying that maybe we have not had that big problem. But of course, he also went ahead to explain that maybe the poverty levels are not as much as elsewhere in the continent. But also, he also talked of the education system there is monitored by the Cambridge system, which means that there's still a lot of interconnectivity with the other systems of the rest of the world. Now, that means that there are a few things that we can, as Africans, if we sat together in our parliament, and of course we have a parliament, I'm not talking about the Pan-African Parliament, but as African scholars, as African leaders, as African academicians, I think there's a lot that we can share together that can, according to the to Miss Nasir in Indonesia, I mean in Tunisia, that we can come up with an African solution to our problems. That we can follow others, fine, but we also need to have to benchmark and come up with our own that can facilitate Africa, so that we can have an African commission of something, we can have an African standard on education, we can have an African solution to some of these problems. So I think it's a high time that Africans need to start looking, talking from outside the box. I think even Professor from Nigeria talked about about it, that we need to have an open mind to learn, because the framing, the mind framing could also be a problem in Africa. If you are believing that Western education is bad, fine. It will be okay if you have an African solution, that this is what we can. But even, he said, the products of the Western, the same education, are the ones demonizing it. So it is a call, I think a wake-up call for African leaders to say, that now I think we need to have a solution to these problems, and we have an African solution.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me come to Botswana, where Professor Bolane is. Professor Bolane, come to the conversation again. Let me just draw your attention to what was in Ghana in 2017, when the All Nations University in a place called Koforidua in Ghana launched their first satellite in space. I just hope you're still with us. Now, this was, of course, breaking news to the world that on the continent of Africa, in one university, in a place called Koforidua in Ghana, the students there from the All Nations University launched the first African constellation satellite in space. Is there anything that we can leverage from that and say, if we have the capacity and the potential to even build something like that on the continent, the future is bright for us, or we think something needs to be done tailored to our needs and what we think our people require?
Thank you very much. I think based on all these discussions from my sisters and my brothers, it is very clear that we are on the right path. It's just that we are missing the African input. We have followed all these international.
Can I interject? Can I interject? Can I interject very briefly? I request that you sit back. Try to sit back and lean on your chair and see if you can have the complete view of yourself. Okay.
Is it okay?
We're just getting a bit of your face. Very, very good. We now at least can see you. We want to see your face. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm saying I want to start with acknowledging the contribution from my sisters and my brothers in the continent, because it is very clear that Africa is on the right path. We have tried to adhere to so many international requirements, and we are very keen to invest in African education. And also, if you look at all these African countries, they've gone through so many policy reforms. That is a reality. And now, going back to the question that you've asked, it's very much linked with the current situation of pandemic. A country such as Uganda heavily depends on South Africa, especially when it comes to access of quality health services. And I think this also applies to so many countries in the region, including Zambia, including Malawi, where we easily access hospitals in South Africa. So I think South Africa, if I use South Africa in the Southern African region, is a big powerhouse in terms of the economy and even in terms of the science knowledge. And I think this also applies to some of the countries or some of the universities in the north. Tunisia is another example. Ghana is there. Nigeria, irrespective of the problems that we are aware of, which has been articulated well by my sister Vera, Nigeria remains the intellectual hub in Africa. That is the fact. And now, the question is, what is the problem with Africa? Why is it that we have so many very brilliant national strategies, and we can carry on from the national strategies up to the continental level based on what has already been said by my brother Ibrahim from Tanzania? So where are we not failing when we have a good example that you have given us in Ghana? The science is there in Ghana, and possibly our technology may be lacking here and there, but I think we also have our education system, because we are talking about education system and we are talking about quality education. Our education system should not just give us creativity, innovativeness, but our education system should give us confidence. I think the issue of self-determination, the issue of self-confidence, so that we believe in ourselves that if they can do it in Russia with their Sputnik, if they can do it in London, if they can do it in Washington, D.C., we can also do it in Cape Town, we can do it in Johannesburg, we can do it in Ghana, we can do it in Uganda, we can do it in Tanzania, we can do it in so many, but the problem again that I see in Africa, it goes back to what has already been said by other colleagues in the forum about synergy, that yes, we follow the international line because we want to become relevant to the global economic competitiveness, because we are trying to produce the learner that is self-programmable, the learner that has all the attributes that are acquired today when it comes to the quality of education in Africa. But while we are doing that, for me, quality education cannot just be coming somebody who can think the way people think in London or the way people think in Australia or in New Zealand. I think quality of education, I mean, sometimes you look at students that are graduating from universities or even from schools in Africa, which is totally different from the time when we had the School of Darts, when we had these African intellectuals, that for some reasons we have divorced ourselves from that intellectual base while we are chasing our strengthening our economies, because the problem of lack of synergy, the problem of not tapping from African knowledge basis, and this is why I was saying I'm having a problem today in the manner in which the African leadership is defining knowledge economy, because for me the definition still goes back to how knowledge economy is advanced in the other world, and there is so much that we can tap from one country to another. So that center that somebody made reference to, and what my sister from Tunisia also shared with us, is there anything that we can tap from Mauritius? How do we strengthen that? What is it? Why did, for instance, why are we making reference to this idea, this scientific and novel idea in Ghana? Then what happened to it? I think it's our lack of self-confidence.
Thank you very much. Let me. Thank you so much. Let me now go to South Africa, to Professor Juliet. Professor Juliet, the conversation is actually just getting very interesting the more we dig deeper into all these issues. But I also want to interest you with a study that was done by the Mo Ibrahim Foundation that discovered that brain drain is a very big bane to Africa's potential in as far as skilled manpower is concerned. Now, in the Mo Ibrahim Foundation report or investigation that they did, they looked at 9 countries of Africa, South Africa being one of them, my Uganda being one of them, and Ibrahim's Tanzania being one of those countries. And they discovered that since 2010, we've lost up to about more than $2 billion in training medical doctors who again export this labor to some other country somewhere else. So all the potential find itself going. How do we mitigate this problem of brain drain with all the so many skilled personnel that we've trained on the continent? And I will pose the same question to Dr. Vera Victor in Nigeria. Please, let me hear your thoughts.
Yes. So while on the one hand, I'm very open to the globalization concept and for us to have porous borders so that the world becomes our playground. I suppose the reasons for why people leaving their countries, certainly within the South African context and within the past few months following severe unrest and in KwaZulu-Natal, a province in South Africa for that matter, was just the disenchantment, I think, with government and the high levels of corruption and the lack of will to actually address this. And with the increasing violence that's going on, the huge economic and socio-economic divide, I think people feel that they're kind of losing hope, and there's a sense of perhaps it's about time that we moved away so that our children would have a better future elsewhere. I'm not sure how real that dream is, because relocating does come with its own set of psychological and other emotional issues. So I would attribute the brain drain to that, and the fact that certainly in South Africa we're so preoccupied with dealing with corruption and the violence that we don't have time to actually harness the incredible wealth of talent and knowledge and commitment and dedication to a lot of people. So it's that kind of fatigue that I think that is one of the reasons that's contributing towards the brain drain, where people are now making out of choice, deciding that they would rather relocate rather than have to wait for this very elusive dream to materialize.
Thank you. Professor Dr. Vera, can you hear us? Vera?
Yes, I can.
Yes, respond to the same question on brain drain.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sadly for us in Nigeria, the issue of brain drain has become sadly normalized. Yes. It is a sad thing for us here because on a daily basis, people are leaving the country to where things looks better. And when we talk about brain drain, there are a lot of factors that lead to it. For us in Nigeria, the security challenges that we are going through now, which we have never seen in this fashion, maybe in the past 4 or 5 decades that I have witnessed, is actually the most a kind of crucial thing that is leading to this brain drain. Unfortunately, our government is doing little or close to nothing about it. I give you a typical example. Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, year in, year out, embark on strike, industrial action. And in Nigeria, for students in the public university, when Academic Staff Union goes or embark on strike, they will tell you we are on university ritual holiday.
Okay.
It's the same. The same thing with the health sector. Health professionals are being employed outside Nigeria and they are living on a daily basis. Everybody wants to go to where it is better, where things are, where individuals are treated more fairly, provided with better amenities and equipment to really function better. And like I said, the government is doing little or nothing about it. I work in a public university in Nigeria. What we have today is not what used to be. Funny enough, our leaders today are products of these same public universities. What they went through is not what they are giving back to the society today. So it boils back to the problem of corruption. Instead of these issues to be addressed, rather you have leaders who are only concerned about what goes into their private pockets. And the system keeps going down and down and down. Right? For an average Nigerian today, he or she cannot boast of a good healthcare facility because he cannot afford it. These facilities are not even available in Nigeria. So for an average Nigerian, how do you go about it? You fall ill, you die, and that is it. But for the leaders who can afford it, once they are sick, they have the means using public funds to go out of the country to get themselves treated. Then with all of this, how do you curtail brain drain in a country like mine, Nigeria? So like I said, brain drain in Nigeria has been normalized. We see it as something normal. In fact, when you are still here with the crisis, you hear people asking you, what are you still doing here? Don't you have offer elsewhere? So this is a call to our leaders to please do the needful, to at least ensure that what is meant for the public be duly given or shared among public. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. In the interest of our time, we are running away from all this, and I think she ends on a very good note, but brain drain. Let me just hear all your thoughts on brain drain. Dr. Mahen from Mauritius, on the issue of brain drain, because we struggle to educate our people who are educated on the continent from Mauritius to find work in Europe or the United States or elsewhere in Asia. We train them in Uganda to go and work elsewhere and not serve Uganda, in Tanzania, in South Africa, and everywhere. Your issues on that, and how can we mitigate against brain drain on the continent?
Brain drain is a rather complex issue, and I think, as you mentioned earlier during the session, you said in Africa, the more educated we get, the more unemployed we are, while mentioning about miseducation. I think this freedom should be there for professionals to move from their country to go and work elsewhere, where they have this opportunity to put into practice whatever they know, whatever they can share with society and earn a good living. And we also welcome people from other countries to come to our country to bring along with them the expertise. I think in a globalized world, we cannot limit people to stay within the territory only. All right, education is all about discovery, going to new shores, new territories, putting your knowledge, putting your expertise, putting whatever you can at the service of humanity at all. Because this brain drain thing, as I'm telling you, definitely the nation spends a lot of money in educating its population, and then you have a group of people migrating, leaving the country and going to work elsewhere. I think we have to look at it as a systemic problem as well. If there is no employment in the country, it is but obvious that people are going elsewhere in order to work, in order to earn a good living, in order to provide the best they can for their family members. And at the same time, we should be attracting the best brains to come to our country in order to develop certain sectors. In Mauritius, we have a series of developments taking place, and where we welcome people from different parts of the world. And these days, a lot of South Africans also are coming to our country because of security problems in their country. Now, these problems, if they are addressed locally, if we provide what we should to our local people, I think the temptation to move abroad will not be there. But brain drain has always been part of human nature. It has always been there. We cannot stop it. We have to look at it from a different perspective. Definitely when we have corruption, when we have people who are victimized, people are not allowed to put in, to give the best in their country, all right? When we have high rate of unemployment, when we have a lot of red tapeism in a country, obviously people look for greener pastures elsewhere. So as I'm saying, brain drain is a rather complex issue. We have a lot of Mauritians working on the African continent, a lot of Mauritians going and working in Europe, in Canada and elsewhere, as well as we have a lot of Bangladeshi workers coming to Mauritius, a lot of South Africans, a lot of Europeans also. So I think we have to look at it as a sharing of knowledge, sharing of good practices, professionals moving from one place to the other. Now, how we can help, I think when people leave their country, go abroad, if they can help their country back home financially. You have a lot of African football players who are sending a lot of money back home in order to invest in various projects. Likewise, we can also have a lot of professionals in various departments, be it medicine, be it engineering, and other areas where they can help, when they can give back to their country, give back to their motherland. I think I am not going to repudiate brain drain. I'm going to say that it is something we have to live with, and we have to harmonize it. We have to see how, whether in our country, most of our laureates, those who excel at the higher school certificate level, they are given scholarships to study abroad, and many of them do not come back in spite of signing a contract that they have to return to Mauritius, all right? But these people do not come. But if they are happy, if they can work in the NASA, if they can work at Oxford University in various other departments in other countries, why not? Why should we limit the job perspective, the professional perspective of someone who can interact with other professionals from other nationalities and go for his own development as well, provided it is a two-way traffic.
Okay.
This is my take on brain drain.
Thank you very much. Now, we've just got 15 minutes to be off air, and I will just request that every one of you just uses 1.5 minutes to make your clarion call, especially to the policymakers. What do you tell the leaders? What do you tell our leaders, our presidents, our prime ministers, cabinet ministers, members of parliament? Please use this opportunity for all of you in just 1.5 minutes to make this to other people. And I'll start with let me start with Dr. Vera from Nigeria, the University of Nigeria. In just 1.5 minutes, what do you tell the leadership on the continent of Africa?
Dr. Vera, you are unmuted.
Okay, unmute and talk.
Thank you.
Very good.
Oh, thank you. I said a call to the Nigerian leadership is to do exactly what we have on paper. Like I said in my earlier opening remarks, we've got very beautiful framework. Implementation has always been the problem. So this call is for the leadership of Nigeria to put into practice exactly what we have on paper. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Lobna Ben from Tunisia, in just less than 1.5 minutes, your final remarks.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this contribution, because it has been very enriching to meet these amazing people and to listen to each other's suggestions and recommendations. What I say to my country, or the leadership in my country, is to work more for partnerships and collaborations with the African countries, and try to find mutual projects and exchanges, and to have more well-studied projects and programs that can satisfy our students in all the African countries. Of course, we cannot do this without referring and getting inspired from the international tendencies and the international standards and guidelines, but we need to have our guidelines also in the African continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lobna Ben from Tunisia. Ndugu Rashid from the United Republic of Tanzania. In 1.5 minutes, your final remarks.
Thank you very much. So I know everyone has been talking about leaders in authority, but as a leadership coach, I would also like to say that leadership is an activity, and leadership does not only involve people in authority. Everyone can be a leader, and the issue of education is supposed to be taken by everyone, and not only pointing fingers, but everyone has to play their part. And I do believe that everyone can take a right step on a right moment, and this is actually leadership. Together, we can make this work.
Thank you very much. Asante sana, tunakushukuru. Asante sana. Dr. Mahende, in 1 minute, finally from you, in Mauritius.
Thank you. And this is something I do regularly in the parliament, in the Mauritian parliament. So I think inclusive education, holistic education, adaptive leadership, and revamp the educational system again and again and review what is not working. As I said, it is a relentless quest for quality education. Thank you very much.
Thank you again very much. And Professor Bolane from Botswana, your final remarks.
Thank you very much. I would humbly request the leadership, not necessarily the Uganda leadership, but the continent at large, to consider a very strong relationship between the political leadership and what is happening in the civil service and researchers, to try as much as possible to tap from local research or research output from within. But at the same time, instead of always bringing in international consultancy, particularly from the West, looking to the continent, because there's so much rich expertise within the continent. And that could help us a lot in terms of policy reforms. I think we are doing well, but we need to work on what we see as the gray areas within our own educational system, particularly in the area of access to quality education.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Professor Julie from the University of Johannesburg, I'll come to you finally after the studios here. Ndugu James Mututa, your final comment.
Well, I think it has been a very enriching discussion, and I've liked it. Learned a few things from the different parts of Africa, which is of interest. But I've also would like to thank Dr. again, the MP from Mauritius. You know, Africans, like I said, most of the Africans, I think the Tanzanian colleague who said we stop pointing fingers. As an opposition leader, I would have expected him to say, government, yes, doing badly, is doing this, but I'm very grateful that he is part of government. And he has put things like he was speaking on behalf of, and how much I wish many of the other politicians, many of people in the opposition in other countries could be on this, because promoting
it's okay to oppose,
yes,
but it's also okay to be civil, like
exactly.
Dr. Mahend.
Yeah, so how much
being in the opposition is being in government.
Exactly. How much I wish that some of our MPs in Uganda, like anyway, they know themselves, would speak their way. And I think one of these days we shall also host him on a different program to talk about the issues of Africa.
Exactly. We'll have him. Ndugu Akol, finally from you, before we get out of studios.
I must say thank you very much, especially the host and the organizers of this. But my call goes to the University of Johannesburg and Professor Juliet, who actually hosts the Africa Education Leadership Roundtable. That the Africa Education Leadership Roundtable should work for Africa. It should not be a forum of where a few people in the academia go and have tea and pleasantries. But let us see that, because this is, they're actually going to have the 6th edition, we need to receive the previous papers that were discussed
and debate them,
and perhaps see how they transform into policy.
Exactly.
Not only in South Africa but across the continent. Maybe in that way we shall feel the impact, and we shall be able to have an education system that works for Africa.
Okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament, Rose Obiga.
Yeah, first of all, I really owe you. I want to thank the organizers and the host for this. I feel so much energized. I've learned so much, and more than willing to move to the next level.
Sure.
I shared this with almost all the parliamentary forums in Uganda, and I know very many ministers and my colleague MPs, including the speaker. They've been watching and following this. We have learned so much. but I think majorly our problem has been poverty of the mind, greed, and people deliberately have a problem with mindset change.
Exactly.
So we'll
find time and talk about mindset change. I didn't want to get into issues of mindset change because that's South Africa's biggest problem.
Yeah, so
we've been educated, but the mindset is still
to
prevalent.
all those who are from working from the Zoom and all of us in the studio, I really owe you. I'm so grateful. I thank you so much. I hear there is taking tea
in boardrooms.
Yeah, boardrooms.
Yeah.
So I hope
studio.
next time I'll participate in taking the tea.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament, Obiga Rose from Terego District. I'm here in Uganda, specifically from the Western region. To you, Professor Juliet from the University of Johannesburg. Let's get your conclusive remarks as we also end our show this morning.
Thank you so much, Ray. I also want to express my absolute gratitude for this opportunity to be able to enter into dialogue with colleagues and sisters and brothers across the African continent. And just wanted to respond to your question with regard to what do we tell our leaders? And I want to concur with Mr. Ibrahim from Tanzania, because I'd like to see us all as transformative education leaders. And perhaps it needs a better introspection about what will we do ourselves to kind of further the agenda in terms of improving education within our countries, but across the African continent. I also want to thank Mr. Mande Akola for giving us this opportunity. It's allowed us for the very first time. This is our 6th Africa Education Leadership Roundtable, and we've had humble beginnings from just hosting 9 countries, and today we this particular 6th Africa Education Leadership Roundtable will bring in speakers from 25 different African countries. We are especially honored to have people from the participants from the Francophone countries for the very first time, and our sister Lobna is one of them. And just to say that it really heartens me because when we initially penned the goals of the Africa Roundtable, it cohered around strengthening our networks of scholars in education leadership at both our individual level as well as institutional level, to develop an agenda for research. And we see there's so many points of intersections that we could draw on in terms of furthering our research focus. And I do want to, to admit that in academia, we tend to be very research driven, and it's about time that it also becomes more responsive to the contextual needs. Otherwise, we accumulate a lot of data and it just gathers dust on some shelf in some office in a university. And we look forward to collaborating and engaging in future research and also the dissemination and to make some meaningful changes on the ground. So I want to thank you for this opportunity and look forward to perhaps more people joining us on the 27th and 28th of October when we actually run the program. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. Just for to us, we thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Juliet. We thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahend from Mauritius. We thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, Ndugu Rashid Yunus Ibrahim from the United Republic of Tanzania. Please, asante sana, just with us. Dr. Vera from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ms. Lobna Ben Nasir from Tunisia. We also thank you so much. And Professor Bolane from Botswana. We also thank you very much. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka, and of course thanking the team in studios. Cole Amazima, thank you so much, Honorable Rose Obiga and Ndugu James Mtuta. We thank you so much. And of course, our producer and our producer, Fakulu Wama, and of course everybody who has made this possible. We thank you so much, and the team out there. We just want to wish you a very blessed Monday. This has been our Pan-African Dialogue. Look at education leadership in Africa. Forgotten my country, stay blessed, and we'll continue with the conversation some other time. We love you all. Africa is our home. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Oh, congratulations, everyone.
Hi, congratulations. We did it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof.